Large, beautiful trees surrounding your home. They can be wonderful to look at, but they can also be a lot of work, costly, time consuming. They can also destroy your home, costing you bukus of money and a heartache. And they can also be deadly.
We're going to take a look at the pros and cons of having trees around your house. So stick around. Okay, so this ought to be a nice fun video for you. Uh, anyway, I got thinking about this because I'm always dealing with this crap, and I thought, maybe I'll make a video and like people that are new to buying a home or renting or whatever, renting a house or renting a trailer, buying a home, buying a trailer. Uh, this is like one thing. I may do a few videos on different things because I'm 65 years old, so I've been living life for a while and lived in some different places and through the years, and so I thought I might just share my wealth of knowledge. Maybe it'll help out younger people. I mean, it may help out a lot of people. I don't know, especially if you're just about buying a house or whatever, and I'm no expert at this crap, so this is just what I've come up with, and I had to think about trees because I like, I got two trees in my yard. That's all. That's the two trees in my yard. They're both in my backyard. I don't have a very big yard. It's a little small house, and two trees in the backyard. One's a pine tree, and then one's, I don't even know what kind of tree it is. All I know is there's crap comes off of it pretty much year round. So does the pine tree, and but but I do have a neighbor on one side that they have two oak trees, and I am continuously dealing with the crap from that tree, those two trees, always, it's year round just about. I may get a couple of months in the summer where I'm not doing too much with them, but yeah, it's pretty much year round. So here's what I was thinking. Okay, here you are, you're young or whatever, and you're wanting to buy a house or rent a house. Uh, One of the first things you need to do would be like, I know most people don't think. I never thought about this when I was buying a house. I remember the house I bought, first house. There was, I cut down 30 something trees in the yard. There were little bitty pine trees. Most of them were maybe that big around. And this would have been 40 years ago or so. Trees now are all about 60, 70 foot tall, but they're called pine trees, and they're just straight. They'd make great 2x4s or whatever, I guess. But when I moved in there was trees all over the place, and I said, okay, I don't need this many freaking pine trees. I wanted to leave some because I thought, oh, it'll be great for blocking that afternoon sun. Ooh, yeah. I had one tree in the backyard. It was a sweet gum tree, and it was right behind. At the time, it wasn't very big. It didn't even make it up to the. It barely got to the maybe halfway up to the top of the roof. I don't know. It wasn't very big. I thought, ooh, that would be perfect. It was about 10 feet away from the house. I thought, oh, that'd be nice. Nice little tree when it gets big. It'll be over the house. It'll be pretty. All this crap. Whoa, I can't think like that. Anyway, so because like I want to tell you, trees grow. They never stop until they're dying. That's what they do. And majority of trees live anywhere from 30 to 100 years. There's some that live way longer than that, and there's some that don't live that long, but most of them live 30 to, so you got to figure an average of 50-ish years, 50, 60 years probably on a lot of trees, That's its life. That's its lifetime, and before it starts dying or whatever, and they may go longer. It just depends on the tree. Blah blah blah. But as like I say, they continue to grow. Most trees never stop growing. I think all trees grow. It's just that some of them don't grow very fast. Some of them don't grow very big. Things like that, and. So what I'm going to tell you is that before you buy or rent or anything like that, I mean, I know you can if you're renting an apartment or you're renting a house, or you're renting a house. There ain't much you can do about, their trees. They may not want to cut down your trees or whatever. But you can decide, like, because if you're living there, you have to deal with the crap from the trees. Okay, your property stuff, the tree falls on the house, whatever. You still gotta deal with that junk. Losing your property or whatever. So even if you're just renting, you should always look at the friggin' trees around closer. And I'm going to recommend that. I love trees; they're beautiful. I love them in the fall, whatever. But when you're looking at the trees, you need to become like an arborist or botanist. Maybe you need to talk to one, especially if you're buying a house. Talk to one about the trees there, like especially like the ones you think you might want to keep and all this kind of stuff, because it's a lot of work. And they can destroy your house. They can kill you. They can do a lot of things, that ain't great, But tear up your concrete. There's so many things, you got to think about with trees, and most people don't. I don't believe think about it. A lot of things with what trees can do. But I would recommend, to be on the safe side, I would recommend if there's any trees around your house, that you get rid of them. To within at least about 100 foot of your house. You can have them around further out than that, because most trees don't grow much taller than that, if that grow tall. I mean, you can try to find out what the trees grow to, maybe, and you're like, okay, well, I'm pretty safe. It's a tree that never gets more than about 60, 70 foot tall. So as long as it's 60 or 70 foot away from the house, but you still got to deal with the crap from the trees. Pretty much all trees lose their leaves except for evergreens, but even they lose their leaves. Pine trees lose their needles year round, believe me. They lose their pine cones, all kinds of garbage from them. It's a continuous thing trying to keep your yard clean from trees, basically. And I think it's pretty much any tree. I have a cedar tree on the side of my house. It's actually in the neighbor's yard, and it puts out these little tiny berries once a year, but that's about it. I mean, it's a beautiful tree. I think it's like I don't know, it's like a silver tree. I can't remember. I don't know all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I'm no botanist or whatever. But I know it's a pretty tree, and it's very much the cedar waxwing birds love it in the fall and in the wintertime and stuff when the little berries are on there. But yeah, it's a beautiful tree, and like I said, it doesn't cause much problem. So I would recommend, like, if you're going to have a house, or if you're going to pick or build a house or whatever, find trees that don't get more than about 15 feet tall, probably, or less, because you also got to think about you're going to be aging too. So as you get old, say you buy a house when you're 30 years old, 35 years old, you have no problem climbing up on a ladder and you're trimming that tree at 15 foot high or whatever, Well, I guarantee you, by the time you turn 65 or less, get up on that ladder, 7, 8 foot in the high, or get up there trying to trim a tree, it becomes a lot more difficult, and you got to think about that junk. So, because the tree's more likely going to outlive you most of the time, unless you move. And that's another thing: when you move into a house and there's already trees there, you don't really know how old they are unless you either cut the tree down and measure the ring or count the rings, or you can have an arborist come out there and they'll drill a little tiny hole about the size of a pencil, and it's like a bore, and they drill through it and they pull out a little sample, and then they plug it so it doesn't kill the tree or doesn't hurt the tree, but and then they can count the rings and they can tell you how old the tree is, like that. But you can kind of guess if it's not very big around when you first moved in there. You'll probably it's probably like a 10-year-old tree or something. But but if it only lives for 40 years, and you already got 10 years on it, that means you're liable to be dealing with that thing when you're 70 or 80 years old at dying, and that's when you don't have any money a lot of times. You're on a fixed income. Now you got this crappy old tree that's going to fall down, either on your house or a neighbor's house. And if you know about that tree rotting or whatever, and you don't take care of it, and it falls on your neighbor's house, they can come after you. Now, if it's a storm and it's a healthy tree and it falls on their house, hurts their house, property or whatever, then pretty much their property stuff will take care of it. Their insurance and stuff will take care of it. Or if it falls on yours, your stuff take care of it. But if you know about it, like if it's that, man, that tree's looking pretty rotten up there, I probably ought to take care of it, but I ain't got no money, I'm 70 years old and I ain't got the money to fix that thing, the tree's dying. All of a sudden, there it comes, crushes the old neighbor's house, and Yep, they're just coming after you, and they're like, we're gonna take your crap, because you knew about it. You had to have known about that tree because it was rotten. I'm just saying, that's a couple of things you got to think about that you may not be thinking about. And but yeah, there's also with trees, like I said, try to get them back away from your house as far as you can. Uh, Unless you just love raking and cleaning up crap in the yard and you don't have whatever. But trees have roots, and I ain't never found seen a tree that is fairly close to your house that doesn't tear up your concrete in your house, your carport, your driveway, all that stuff. My driveway, there's roots. You can see where it's pushed it up from a tree there, from these trees next door. This tree underneath my slab here, I got a tile floor, but you can tell where roots have basically buckled it under there and has cracked the tile in places. And there's not a lot you can do about it. I mean, you can try to kill the tree, and I guess that'll quit the growth of them. But and I guess eventually they'll rot away or whatever down in the ground. But you still got a cracked concrete slab and all that kind of junk. But anyway, so you always got to think about the roots, the trees, and always remember that a tree, whatever you see on from the outside of the tree, so you see the tree and it's got limbs, out there this big. Well, whatever you see up there, that's what's underground too. A root system is generally about the size of what's above it. So you got the tap roots, you got your roots, you got little roots that go everywhere, and so you can look it up and you can see, well, there's a tree here and it almost looks like a tree underneath the ground too. So that's how trees are. And I think pretty much all of them are like it. Maybe some, I don't know, palm trees. Some trees that don't have to go very deep to get water a lot of times, and like summertime and stuff like that, they may not have a deep root system. Trees that don't have deep root systems, though, fall easier when storms, like tornadoes or hurricanes or whatever. A lot of things just fall out over, because they don't have a deep root system because they don't have to dig it. They don't have to go deep to get water year round. So a lot of times they have a shallow root system, so they fall down easier. You got to think about that too. But also like on your own house, it's not just the damage that a limb or whatever. I just had a storm here the other day. That's kind of what made me think about this. And a big old limb fell off of it. I got a little video of it. I'll stick it in here, probably here somewhere. But that tree limb came off. It sounded like it hit the house. It didn't look like it did any damage, but it did go down and break off a picket on my fence and the top of it, and just crap everywhere, just limbs everywhere, from that thing. But like I said, so you got to worry about the roof damage, but not just the roof, like from damage from a storm or whatever, but pretty much all trees are going to leave leaves on your roof, So almost yearly, like if you have a gutter system, I mean, if you know about that, you're always going to have to clean that. As you get older, you have to think about that too. Like you may not be able to get up there and clean the gutter yearly, so now you got to hire somebody. So you got to think about that. Like when you get older, like what am I going to do when I get where I can't do this no more? Because you're not going to get any younger. Every day we age. So when you get 50, 60, 70, you may not be able to climb up there and do that crap, so now you got to hire somebody. Well, when you get on fixed income or Social Security, whatever, you're like, I can't afford to do that. So basically the gutter clogs up. You have a lot of problems. Same thing with the roof. If somebody can't get up there and clean off the roof, yearly or bi-yearly, a couple times, it just depends on how much stuff you get on the house. Pine straw really builds up on a roof. Believe me, I know. It don't take but one season basically, and you can have a lot of pine straw. And with pine straw, it gets wet, it gets really heavy, so you got that. But also, it creates mold and bugs and insects, ants, all kind of junk love to get under that stuff. Believe me, they do, especially in warmer climates and stuff. So you always have to deal with that. They can get in your house, all this kind of stuff. So you got to think about that. So that's another thing. You want to have the trees far enough away so they're not blowing tons of crap on your roof or whatever. And then you got to think about the power outages. Like there's not much you can do about limbs, trees and stuff along roads and roadways and all that kind of stuff. You're going to lose power. Generally, because there's just there's just too many trees that people just have in their yard out closer. And sometimes they may even not even be technically in your property. They're along the along the roadway, and you can't touch them because you don't technically own that. There's a right of way. So many feet from the center line of a road is the parish, the city, the state, county, whatever they own. So many feet, and for the power utilities, all that kind of stuff. So there ain't much you can do about it. And but the ones that are closest to, generally the thing that if something happens to a power line out there, you don't have to pay for it. They're gonna fix it for free. Now, if you got a tree that's close to your house and the line that comes from the pole to your house, if something happens and it takes it out, well, you're pretty much going to have to pay to get that fixed. You're going to have to call an electrician, basically have that rehooked back up. They'll cut the power off for you so they can do it, but the electric company. But you pretty much going to have to fix I think they will mess with the meter. They'll replace the meter because that's how they see how much juice you're getting, and believe me, they want to have that fixed so you'll know how much to suck out of your checking account. But so you got to think about that too. Any trees that are close to your utility lines, and you also got to think about sewer pipes. They can play havoc on sewer pipes. They're bad about buckling. Sewer pipes basically come in so many feet joints, and PVC pipe, and where it's a lot of times where it's joined a lot of times, and it can do it anywhere in it. I mean, it can just bust it. Root can grow hard dirt, just bust a hole in the thing. But a lot of times it's where the pipes join. It'll buckle it right there, and then those roots start growing because it's water. It's like poopy water. It's nutrients and all that kind of stuff. So the water, the roots go in there, get all down inside there, and then you're continually having to get Roto-Rooter or somebody out there to come out and cut them out with a blade that comes down. They have it on a Roto-Rooter. It goes down there and it cuts those roots out. You can or you got to buy the chemical. You can keep flushing out. It'll help kill the roots, stuff like that. But it's either way, it's costly. It's all costly to you, and like I said, all these things can add up to costing you money. So you want to think about this stuff. And or I keep looking down here at my little list of things. Then it's like the work. You got to remember all the stuff if you want to keep your yard halfway decent looking. You're always raking the stuff, picking up limbs, picking up. It ain't just. Most people think, it's just fall, whatever. Fall a couple times in the fall, I go out there and rake. Believe me, a lot of trees ain't, because a lot of trees put out stuff in the spring, little flowery things or whatever, and they fall. And then like an acorn tree, you got acorns that fall. Any kind of nut tree or whatever. Generally, they all fall before the leaves fall. So you have to deal with the acorns, the nuts, whatever. Which if you have nuts, maybe you want to pick them up, and if you're going to eat them or whatever. But all that stuff you don't do once it all rots. It kills your grass. Most like acorns have a high content of whatever, I can't think of the acid stuff in them. But when they dissolve, it basically. If you ever look around an acorn tree or something like that, you'll notice hardly any grass grows around it because it's acid stuff in the acorns and the trees and all that stuff. It won't grow, and they can do a lot of stuff to your grass. I mean, shady stuff made all that to grass grow, all these things. So it depends on how you want to have your yard look or whatever, and how clean you want it. Like when you mow. You don't want to be continually long. You don't want a bunch of limbs, so you got to pick them up a lot of times if they're very big. Pine cones, they ain't great on mower blades. All these things you got to think about that you got to do. It's extra time, and when you think about, I could tell you. I mean, I know it's been months of my life spent picking up junk. This is just picking up crap from trees and neighbors' trees, and that's another thing with trees. I'm on a little bit of a hill, and always remember if you're on the downside of a hill, that all that crap flows to your yard. Like I always say, crap flows downhill, and so does people's crap from their yard flows down here because I'm always having to deal with. Because like I said, I don't have a tree in my front yard at all, but I get so much crap from those trees that wash down in my yard because they don't continue. They don't care. They don't. They don't. Continually, you know, rake it because there's no grass that grows in their yard. It's just roots and vines and acorns and the leaves and rotten old limbs and everything else that falls off them things. And actually got a big limb laying out there, and they're actually on their yard right now that fell into my yard, and I just drug it over there, but because it's about a 30-foot limb probably, and but luckily nothing was under it. But yeah, so I always remember that with the trees. I know some of this are probably just thinking over and over again. I thought about the trees, old trees, like who pays, like I said, if you're gonna put trees, I would suggest that you're gonna, if you're gonna be say renting long term or something, and they, you can cut the trees down, or they don't have any tree, put shrub. Don't plant a tree. Put shrubbery up closer to your house. You can put trees out away from your house. I mean, if you want to, that's fine. I mean, at least you don't have to deal with them damaging your house or being so crummy that they just continually work on them. I mean, if you especially your front yard, I mean that's where everybody sees you. If your backyard, I suggest you put trees, or if you want like trees that kind of like they got trees that they're more like evergreen trees. They only get like 15 feet tall or maybe or so, and I would suggest you don't get those either because, like I said, when you get older, you may not be able to keep them trimmed and all that looking nice and all that kind of stuff. So I would suggest more of a shrubbery type thing. Shrubberies that maybe don't get more than 5, 6, 7 foot tall, whatever. Still blocks a lot of stuff, but you don't have to deal with. You can always get out there and trim it pretty much, even when you get old or whatever. I mean, once you get an invalid, you can, but But what I'm saying, you can just do that, and so I would suggest you do that. If you have to talk to an arborist, if you're going to buy an arborist or somebody deals with trees a lot, maybe even people that cut down trees. I'm not sure. It just depends on who you can talk to, but and ask like what kind of tree is this? How big it's going to get. But a lot of stuff you can just Google. I mean, they got stuff now where you can take a picture of the leaves or just look at the leaves and match it up. You know what kind of tree it is and look it up and like, okay, this tree's going to get 70 foot tall. I don't want to deal with that. It's 10 foot away from my house. It's, right now it's only 10 foot tall and you're buying a house. Cut the sucker down. Or have somebody come up and you can, they even do it for free or whatever, where they come out and they might can take the tree themselves and they'll sell it to somebody else, whatever, especially if it's a nice tree, like a 10 or 15 foot tree, and they might can put it somewhere, or you have somebody dig it up and put it, further away from your house if you just want the tree, and it would be better off to do that than have the tree close to your house, causing all these problems stuff. Get the tree away from your house. I'm telling you, man, you don't want big trees next to your house as much as possible. Get them suckers away from it because otherwise they're going to screw you up, and like I said, they ain't, renting and stuff like that, there ain't much you can do about it. But other than just say, if say you're wanting to rent and you think I'm going to be there, I really don't want to have to move again, and you think of being a long-term renter, and just remember that you will have to deal with the stuff from the trees. Now, if it damages the property or whatever, more like you want to deal with that because, but you do have to deal, like if a tree goes through your house. And you better keep renter's insurance and stuff like that because, renter's insurance, you think about it just for fire or something like that, but you might need it for like that, a tree splitting. I know there's been two houses where I live, the subdivision here I live in, one right across the street several years ago, and one not too long ago through a hurricane, come through here. Now we're 300 miles north of the coast, but it still had 60, 70 mile an hour winds with that hurricane, about 2022 or something, whatever it was, 2021, I don't know. So it sent that pine tree, and this was about a 60-foot pine tree, right through the middle of their house. And I mean, it went almost to the ground, cut the house basically in two. I don't think nobody was hurt, but and the neighbor across the street, he had a huge pine tree this was a long time ago, 30 years, and it was already an old tree and kind of rotty or whatever. But it come down and almost crushed his. Well, it crushed his house. The only thing I think it stopped it was his truck up under the carport. And it basically the truck kind of kept it from going all the way to the ground. But so that's just here, that's just right around my house. I don't know what the rest of the subdivisions. There may be other ones, I don't know, but just gotta kind of remember that stuff, And what else is there? And oh, you gotta think about how deadly they are. Widowmakers, they call it, limbs falling off of trees, or trees falling on people. They kill about 100 people in the United States a year. That ain't counting the people that get hurt by them. Just I'm always worried. I'm out there mowing or something, like, man, one of them freaking limbs falls down right where I'm under. That's gonna hurt. You get a limb, this big around, coming down on your head. Maybe it may be rotten, and it may just bust up pretty easy. A lot of them when they rotten before they fall, they just kind of bust apart, and they're not, they don't really weigh too much or something. So, but like this tree the other day that came down in that storm, it was a fully healthy limb, and it's about 20-foot limb, about maybe that big around at the base. So, it would have put you out. I mean, it would have done you in probably more than likely if it hit you. So, so you always got to think about those. People. I know people lately, they want to put their kids out there into a tree, swing set, a tire on a rope, all these kind of things, underneath that tree. Man, I mean, I know you can't worry about everything in your whole life, just because this thing's going to happen, but you just got to be super careful where you put that kind of stuff and be aware of what it can do. Don't just be stupid about it and be like, oh, that tree's perfectly fine. It ain't never going to. No, that tree is growing and it's going to die eventually. So, and tree limbs are going to fall off of it. Wind's going to blow, whatever, And you never know when a limb's going to come down and hurt somebody, kill you, unalive you, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know. I see people say unalive all the time. I don't know what that. I mean, I assume I don't know if they're meaning they don't want to say the K word. I don't know. But anyway, I'm just trying to tell you, this is. I'm not trying to be, super scary and all this stuff, but and I am too, a little bit, because I just want you to be aware of what can happen. I mean, I've been out in the woods a lot of my life, and trees fall and stuff like that. I push trees down before, I always got to worry about that kind of stuff. You're out hunting or fishing or camping or whatever. When you're camping, you always got to look up. Look for those widowmakers, they call them. Those limbs that are hanging up there over your campsite that look like they might come down on you, and because they can take you out. That's the end of you. And so same thing around your house, you got to do. But yeah, and also they cost billions of dollars worth of damage in a year, and there's one other thing that you might. This is kind of an odd thing. It's probably not kind of rare and stuff, but you do have to kind of think about this. When say you're in a house one day, and your little daughter Sissy comes running up to you and goes, Daddy, there's a guy outside. He's hugging our tree real hard. I think he's going to hurt it. And he doesn't have any pants on. And you're like, what? So you look out there and you see this guy hugging your tree really hard with no pants. And your daughter's standing there looking at you like, Daddy, what do we do? Is he hurting our tree? And you say, Sissy, that man just thinks he's a squirrel, and right now he's trying to store his nuts for the winter. That's about all you can tell her. Anyway, so you have to deal with that too, maybe so at some point in your life with a tree, and you got kids maybe. So just think about that too. You might always remember that one, but keep that one in the back of your mind. It could happen. But anyway, I think that's about all for this video. Like I said, I'm gonna put a clip of some of the junk just from the last couple of days around my. This is just a little bit of area in my backyard. some of it was from the storm that came down, just the limbs and stuff that I had picked up just from the one tree, basically, in that pine tree, the stuff that came down from that one little storm. And some of it, like, I got it cleaned up, and then and for the 2 days or 3 days afterwards, every day I have to go out there and pick up pine cones. They just keep dropping like crazy out there. Like, it's just from that one pine tree. And I don't know if you ever tried to walk on pine cones. It ain't fun trying to walk on freaking pine cones, man. Them things can trip you up and, man, maybe face plant you or whatever else. I don't know, man. Them suckers suck, man. Them old pine cones, I don't care much for them things. It's like from a sweet gum tree. I remember that old sweet gum tree. Man, they just had little pointy little balls like this big. Man, you couldn't walk on them things for nothing, man. It was like, they sucked. And, but, yeah, good times. But, anyway, just like I said, look for an arborist or talk to somebody before you buy a house. Research it, whatever, rent before you rent or buy. Starting out. That's all I'm trying to do with this video, is like trying to give a little of my knowledge maybe on, what to look for. Like I said, I may do some other videos on this, on things about, renting or buying a house, things to kind of look for, stuff like that, it kind of give you a heads up. Because like I said, a lot of people just don't, I know I didn't think about some things, like, you think about how much your rent's going to be or how much this. You don't think about all this other hidden freaking cost a lot of times and stuff like that. So that's the reason I was going to make another video maybe on that kind of stuff or stuff like that. But anyway, if y'all do want me to do that, give me a like or comment, whatever, more about that. If you watch this video may not get 3 people watching it. I don't know. But, I'm trying, whatever. And I've been doing this a while. This is my 9th year actually this month, 9 years making YouTube videos. Yeah. Been doing a lot of them over the years. And some of them ain't so big, so good. And some of them done pretty good. But anyway. But yeah, stay around and watch. If you want to watch that little bit on the end, I'll have a little bit on the end, just showing you kind of just a little bit on the trees and junk on the junk from my backyard or whatever. If you want to watch that, but if you want to, stick around. Anyway, I know this video's super long. Anyway, hope you like it, and anyway, give me a like, subscribe, share it, especially if you know anybody that's buy a house or rent a house or whatever. Maybe, I don't think I ain't some suit up here trying to, tell you what to do or be all official and crap, I'm just like a normal dude that's just, been around for 65 years. So, tell you like it is, whatever. But anyway, that's it. We'll talk to you later, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
The pine cones that you see just on this little patch here are from overnight. And now I have to pick up. And it's from this one pine tree. There's another one over here in my neighbor's yard. So someone probably come to that one too. But yeah. So now I gotta sit here and pick up pine cones. This is my barrel. This is in just the last few days. This is just in the backyard. I have a trash can up front that the wind blew them over the house in the last storm, and I put all them in there, which was probably about this many. Yeah, it's good times. Sometimes more of your life that you wind up wasting away, picking up crap from trees. Oh, if you do have trees, be sure to get you one of these. I had to modify mine down here with hot glue to make it to where it would pick up the littler stuff, but because it wouldn't close all the way. Sometimes they don't want to close all the way. Maybe a common thing, I don't know. And by the way, almost every bit of that, there was a little bit in the very bottom, but almost every bit of this is from the last storm we had. This thing is basically 3 foot by 3 foot, and about let's see, I don't know, comes up past my knee, so what is that, 2.5 feet, 2 foot, 2.5 foot how tall, something like that. And then this tree limb came off. It sounded like it hit the roof, I'm not sure. It was a lot of noise, but it wound up being against the fence on the other end of the yard, and it broke a picket off when it hit it. So, of course, you know, that has to be fixed. Money cost. And let's see, I already showed you my pine cone pile. This is pine cones fall pretty much year round, you know, so they're gonna be worse. This is only August, so I'll have pine cones pretty much daily. Nice little pile of them, just basically from this one pine tree I have. Yeah, so that's just a little bit. I just wanted to show you a little bit of what's it like, you know, having a tree or a couple trees in your yard. Yeah, no big deal. Just money and time of your life, and when you're 65, every second counts. Yeah.